Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Musio, the Chief Business Development Officer with AdCellerant, and we're going to be talking about leveraging device ID today and how our publishers and our local media partners are leveraging this platform to grow business right now and also prepare themselves for 2021. I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to get their popcorn ready, and we'll get started around 12:02. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Musio, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on today's business development webinar on leveraging device ID, as well as the AdCellerant platform in order to grow business. Not just right now, but also preparing our partners for success heading into Q4 and beyond in 2021. As I mentioned, I'm Jonathan. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer. I'm joined by a couple of my esteemed colleagues, Senior Director of Business Development, Ben Bauslaw. You want to say hi, Ben?
Hey, everybody, how's it going? There's that unmute button.
The quote of 2020, you're on mute. Thanks, Ben. Looking forward to you presenting some of the material here today. And also want to introduce everybody to Elizabeth Bernberg. She's our Director of Business Development. Elizabeth, you want to say hello?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. So with that being said, I wanted to review the agenda that we're going to be going over here today. Just giving everybody an overview about AdCellerant, who it is that we are, what it is that we do. And then we're going to go into location-based targeting solutions. This is something that's a hot topic today in the digital marketing industry, and there's a lot of different location-based targeting solutions. We're going to talk about some of the ones that are familiar to us and how it's being applied by our partners to grow revenue. And one of those platforms is called Device ID. And we're going to talk about what device ID and how it compares to other geofencing location-based targeting capabilities that are out there. And then also review some case studies, how this is being applied right now in a pandemic to produce some measurable, amazing measurable results during the pandemic on behalf of our partners, advertisers. And then also how our partners are leveraging the address match aspect of device ID, which creates a first-party targetable audience on behalf of our partners based on a subscriber database or a physical address database. And then also how it's being applied to provide advanced analytics and what I like to call location lift. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. A little bit of an overview about AdCellerant. AdCellerant, our battle cry, so to speak, is making sure that we're able to provide quality digital advertising to every single business out there. And how we're able to do that is through our partner network. We provide white labeled sales enablement, execution, and reporting support for several different digital marketing platforms like programmatic display and pre-roll video and location-based targeting capabilities, and Google and Facebook. We're able to help white label those capabilities and make sure that they can be represented to our local media partners and advertising agency partners, to their local advertisers. We are all based in Denver, Colorado. Everything that we do is in Denver, Colorado. We have a team of 90 people. Majority of those people are on the operations side, the business executing campaigns on behalf of our partners, but we also have an account management team, as well as a software engineering and a software development team, all based in-house. And what makes us different is that we provide a proprietary suite of software application tools that help our partners manage this aspect of their business a little bit more efficiently. And we currently partner with about 350 different local media organizations in about 450 markets in 5 countries. We're executing about 50,000 campaigns on behalf of those partners. And from an accreditation standpoint, AdCellerant was recently recognized as being on the Inc. Magazine Inc. 5000 list for the 3rd year in a row. And back in 2018, we were the 83rd fastest growing company on the Inc. Magazine Inc. 5000. And we are the only preferred programmatic solution for the local media consortium. So what we do for our partners is, one, providing cutting edge technology to create automation, to create scalability, to create organizational efficiencies, and also to make it easier for our partners to go out there and sell some of these more complex boutique digital marketing capabilities that you can see down there on the bottom right-hand corner right here. And we are able to make sure that our partners are able to represent these solutions as their own, to complement their owned and operated capabilities or whatever it is that they're executing in-house, in order to provide more robust solutions and capabilities to local advertisers in order to grow revenue. So we're going to talk a little bit today about location-based solutions and why they are more important now than ever. So what is location-based targeting? Location-based targeting is exactly what it sounds like it is. It's targeting people based on what their current physical location is, or maybe where it is that they were in the past. And it allows our partners to create customized solutions on behalf of their advertisers to focus on delivering ads to people in a location that is highly relevant to that advertiser, that features their target client profile. And why is location-based targeting important to include in the media mix? It's highly targetable. You know, with some of the technology that's available out there, you can target down to 1/10 of a meter around a physical radius location. We can also maximize impression delivery to relevant qualified audiences within those geofence locations. And from a location-based targeting standpoint, there are over 1,400 different location-based targeting data providers out there. AdCellerant uses a couple of those different types of data. The first is geofencing, or what we like to call micro proximity, which is targeting people who are in a physical location right this very second. And with that micro proximity capability, we can target down to a 5 decimal place radius around a physical location anywhere in the entire universe. The other platform that we use from a location-based targeting standpoint is called Device ID, and we're going to be talking a lot about Device ID and how it's being used right now. This is a historical geofencing tactic that allows our partners to look back and devices that were in a location in the past as far back as 12 months or as recently as 3 days ago. But we can also use Device ID to match mobile devices to a physical address database that is either provided by our local media partners or our local media partners' advertisers. There's also different types of location-based targeting technology out there. Simplify uses bidstream data, and bidstream data, while it's not nearly as granular as being able to leverage location services that are enabled on mobile devices, it does provide location targeting to a zip code level, and it also provides information in the bidstream tied to what type of device, as well as ad-related data. What was the publisher URL, what kind of device it was, what ad format was served on that device. That's all available. That's all data that's available within the bidstream. And then there's also beacon technology, which provides an on-premise solution for advertisers that can enable the ability to deliver notification to a mobile device within a proximity to that on-premise location where that beacon is placed. There are limitations, though, to that beacon data. Is that the limitations are that the person, in order for them to get delivered an ad on that device, to receive a notification, they have to have an application downloaded onto that device, but they also have to have Bluetooth technology enabled on that device as well. So with device ID, which I'm going to kick it over here to Ben to talk about in greater detail here in just a couple of slides. Device ID technology, what is it? How does it compare to different geofencing solutions that are out there? As I mentioned, device ID technology allows us the ability to look back historically on devices that were in a physical location in the past as far back as 12 months ago, or as recently as 3 days ago. And in doing so, there's a number of different ways that we can leverage this technology. And Ben, on the next slide, you can see we have that actual address or that location-based targeting capability. And Ben's going to provide a demo of the location targeting that comes with device ID. And that's the main way that this platform is being leveraged right now, is through look back functionalities. But we also are able to identify and match mobile devices based on an address database that's provided to us, enabling us the ability to, once we match a mobile device to a physical address, deliver a display ad or a video ad to that device, no matter where that device is in the universe. So with that being said, I want to kick it over to Ben to discuss a little bit more about how this device ID technology compares to other geofencing technologies out there in the marketplace, and how our partners are applying that. So without further ado, Ben.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan. So I love talking about device ID. You know, I am confident that this is probably one of the most qualified device ID or geofencing look-back technologies in the entire marketplace today. What excites us about this is that we have a very precise targeting capability associated with this. And as much as we like to show decks, like Jonathan said, I'm going to actually put you guys through a little bit of a demo, tell a little bit of a story of how that actually works. And so you wonder, how did this device ID actually get collected from those devices? What you want to understand is that it is associated with those location-based services on your phone. And so whatever device applications you're actually downloading, those different applications, whether it's the weather app, if it is Uber, maybe it's those Lime scooters that you see covering your major cities across America right now. It could be Candy Crush, any of those games. Those apps, a lot of them, they come out, you know, they're available for free. But the reason that they're so successful, there's a reason that those Lime scooter companies are, you know, billion-dollar companies today, is because they make a lot of money on the data that they're actually able to collect on the users who are actually leveraging those. So they can tell you exactly where you've been, how long you've been there, you know, where were you at in certain parts of buildings, things like that. But they're consistently sharing your location data and pinging your location down to the exact 5 decimal point radius of a exact latitude and longitude, which is essentially down to a square meter. I could tell you if you're in a specific parking spot if you really wanted to. And so when we talk about this, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a demo of exactly how this works. So I'm going to go to one of the local watering holes here in Denver, Colorado. There's a nice big sports bar called View House. I like to use View House because, you know, we want to take a look at exactly who was there pre-COVID, if anybody's been there in the last couple of months since they've had their kind of phases of reopening the business. And then we also want to see post-COVID, you know, what are we going to be able to do to help encourage people to come back to our business, whether that's for curbside pickup, if we want to deliver them ads and say, hey, we have delivery available now. This can be applied to all these different types of industries. It's not just for restaurants. It's not just for retail, but these are a couple of the ones you want to keep in mind as we head into Q4. We know that a lot of these businesses are actually going to generate the majority of their revenues during Q4. And so we want to help those advertisers lock in those dollars now with you to prepare for what's coming. So we like to look at the science behind exactly what device ID targeting is. And so I'm actually going to map out this location right here. The View House is a pretty slick spot. They got this nice big turf yard where you can play a lot of games. And they got a couple stories of, you know, places where you can hang out with your friends, play some video games, get some good food, a couple of different bars in there. But we can look back, like we said before, as far as 1 year ago. So I actually went back 11 months. I don't want to change my date for the sake of time. But as we're looking at what this device count is actually collecting, we're going to be able to determine exactly how many devices that we found in there during that given time frame. And we're actually guaranteeing that those devices were actually there. This is taking a minute, so I can fill it with a little bit of jargon I got for y'all. But when we talk about why the science matters and why we want to make sure that this data is as clean as possible, is because I don't want any of the fluff or the noise. I want to have only those devices that were in that given location. So one way that we clean our data that is a good representation of why it's important to clean it is because we know technology is not always perfect. If you find my device in the view house within the last 12 months, but for whatever reason, at the exact same time it said it was there, it also said it was over in San Francisco or Chicago maybe, we will kick that device ID out of our audience entirely. And typically this works in all my presentations, and it's, you know, just so happens to be this one time where it's not pulling up now, but we're gonna be able to see that it pulls up a certain amount of devices. And as I continue, I want you guys to know we don't want the noise or the fluff on the outside. I want to make sure I'm not collecting devices of anybody who is walking down the street, driving down the road, headed to the baseball game. I want people who are actually at the view house. And so it's a really important part of how you're ensuring that this is as targeted data as possible. So what you would do, you know, as we're telling our story, you have your essentially that client needs analysis or that discovery call with your client. You say, do you want to target all the people who've been to all of your locations and your competitors' locations within the last 12 months? They say, heck yeah. You provide us with that list of locations that they want to target, and then we will give you this in return as a pre-sales tool. This is what's known as an audience insight report. The reason I like this so much is it is actually providing an actualized profile of the audience of who we're going to be placing our ads in front of. This one in particular is for a luxury community down in Southwest Florida. We were mapping out a bunch of different luxury living locations. You know, they can hang out, spend a lot of money, the country clubs, the Audi of Naples, the Ferrari dealership of Naples, things like that. So we were able to collect a certain amount of devices. We see that there's a total number of visits by all of those devices. And what's nice here, this little heat map that you see, this is actually telling us where those people live. And this zip code list just below it tells us the zip codes of where those individuals live. So when you're showing this information to your clients, you know, whether they're in Southwest Florida, whether they're in Denver, the Northeast, anywhere in the continental United States, you're able to tell them this is where all those people actually live, but they came to these businesses. What's nice about this is you're able to see this is an exact profile of those individuals. We're also able to show you a lot of other cool information like their visitor frequency, the number of visits by day of the week, hour of the day. We'll break it out per location as well. It just keeps getting creepier and creepier. But this is the type of stuff that you and your sales reps can actually leverage to place in front of your advertiser to help close that deal. I've done this many times on behalf of a lot of our partners. And to be honest with you, mouths are dropping. My mouth still drops when I see this is the data we're actually able to pull. One of the coolest parts is, you know, continuing to validate that profile of individual. We're giving average age ranges, the gender breakout, if there's a presence of children in their household, and also what that average household income looks like. So you know you're sitting here telling your advertiser, your client, that this is the audience we're going to put you in front of, and they're going to love it because they know that's exactly who they want to get in front of. So once you guys close the sale, I'm confident you're going to make it happen. We'll actually run this campaign for them, however many impressions that they want to run. And not only will you get your standard reporting, your clicks, your impressions, on-site conversions, complete transparency in the reporting dashboard that we have, device type, contextual targeting, the behaviors as well. These are things that you're going to get. And what's nice about this location-based targeting is that I'm also going to give you something known as foot traffic attribution. So 1, they were in our target audience, Mr. Advertiser. 2, we were delivering them ads. And 3, we saw them walk into your brick and mortar location or the conversion zone that you were trying to drive them to. This was a really great report because they wanted to know how many people they had in their community that they actually got into this massive geozone, but they did have a micro geozone that they wanted to target. And we were able to show them that they had 5 unique responses from this one campaign to drive people to their actual sales center in that community. They're selling $2 to $10 million homes. So this was very valuable to them because we showed them the zip codes of where these people were actually from, and they were able to attribute them to individuals who actually walked into their sales center that month. So this is one of the coolest ways that you're able to provide that to your clients in terms of actualizing ROI. That's one of the #1 questions you're going to get. What's the ROI we're going to generate? We're going to be able to tell that to you right here. So you understand how device ID works. Well, we're collecting those devices. We're collecting all that information about the individuals who own those devices. But we've also found a way to actually reverse engineer this device ID technology. And it's known as device ID address match. A lot of our partners, publisher partners, even broadcasters, or even clients of yours, they're sitting on mounds of first-party data that Jonathan was talking about before. This can include what's in their CRM. You know, if it's a mailing list, if they're sending out a direct mailer, we can take those lists, the physical addresses, their home addresses, and we can identify every single device that lives within that location or that house right there. So what we like to talk about is actually digitizing your audience. It's data that you already have. So we'll take your subscriber database or that mailing list of who you just sent all those mailers to, and we'll digitize it. We will now increase the frequency at which you're placing ads and messages in front of them on behalf of your advertiser so that they can increase their likelihood of getting them to convert into an actual customer. So this is one of the coolest ways that we're able to leverage our device ID technology is through that kind of reverse engineered device ID address match. And so we do have pre-made packages that we've actually shared with a lot of our publisher partners. That is a really, really valuable way to get them to get some of their legacy print sellers to start selling digital without actually thinking about digital. What's great about this is that you're able to focus on your audience, the audience you already know very well and you're very good at selling it. This is digitizing them and following them around everywhere else. So it's a great way to incrementally enhance and increase the number of, the deal sizes that you have for these advertisers. So we created a handful of different packages for them. The silver package, the gold package are some of my favorite ones here. We've got a case study as well of a partner who actually upsold 10 of their largest advertisers at just one of the base packages. They upsold 10 advertisers at $1,500 a month per advertiser. They actually contracted an additional $180,000 in revenue that year. And all they did was sell the audience that they're already used to selling. It's easy. So your salespeople don't have to change their pitch. All they have to say is it's the same audience on a different platform. So these pre-built packages is a really easy way to help your salespeople be able to focus on what they're already doing. And it creates a seamless, a seamless transition into the digital environment, really. And so when we talk about those device ID differentiators, it's really important. And I wonder if this thing is finished yet over here. Let me double check this one. Nope, we're still getting counts. Sorry about that, you guys. So those differentiators is understanding exactly that we have a one-to-one match guarantee that those devices were in those locations. We're cleaning the heck and scrubbing the heck out of those device audiences to ensure they were actually there. A lot of these location-based strategies are not using these location-based settings that we were talking about before. So it's very specific based on that exact latitude and longitude down to a 1 meter radius. And I think, I know that the AdCellerant team's gone the extra mile by providing that matching data that's publicly available to you guys now to help go and close your sale as that pre-sales tool. Those audience insight reports are really what helps seal the deal there. And so we want everybody to be able to take full advantage of that with this device ID technology that we have.
I think it's important also with this device ID technology, the idea is that we're able to identify trends within those devices based on that location service on that device, pinging that device's location up to the cloud, sometimes hundreds of times per day. And we'll be able to eventually utilize those trends to identify other aspects. I know Ben kind of reviewed the household income, the age range, presence of children, male, female, but eventually you're going to be able to determine audience insights and demographics tied to where that device works, where their kids go to school, where their place of worship is. And that's information that's all going to be available within these audience insight reports in due time. And again, utilizing those trends and those pieces of data to equip our partners to become better sellers, to make sure that they're establishing credibility with their advertisers and how it is that they know and can hone in and just identify how this technology can be used to really target their target ideal client profiles.
I agree. And so I also like that because you're also providing additional value, added value to your clients by sharing that type of information. Who's going to their competitors' locations? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from my side of town? I sure hope not. Those are the things we're able to help encourage them to say, hey, this is my business right here. When you need those products and services, mine's ready to go. Don't go to my competitors anymore. And so as we continue to look at, using that device ID technology to crush Q4, and especially creating momentum for 2021, especially as we're hopefully emerging out of COVID sometime soon, we want to have Elizabeth kind of go over exactly some of the ways that we've helped our partners transition from our pre-COVID to during COVID to really support those advertisers and help them understand what do we need to be doing now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ben. And really just to echo from what you and Jonathan were saying before, with regards to device ID, location-based technology and services, these bullet points right here are really best practices, of course, tied to the pandemic, but these are things to have in your toolkit and go-to resources for ongoing conversations with your advertisers. So looking at your current customer base, looking at lapsed customers, how can you reignite that conversation? How can you get them to advertise to anyone, right, who has been in your business location, in their business location over the past 12 months? Start a new conversation. Tell them you've got that pickup service available, or curbside, that you are taking appointments now. Restart that conversation with your advertiser. What about earning a market share, earning a greater market share? Looking back to your customers who have been to your competitor locations, how can you then shift that audience to then come to your advertiser's location and build up your top of mind awareness with a new and a growing consumer base? Appealing to your neighborhood. I mean, own your backyard, right? That is so, so important right now, above and beyond the pandemic, but every single day, making sure that you have your stakehold on your neighborhood and reaching those mobile devices in a specific zip code area. Using prime locations. I think this is super important for us to remember where our ideal consumer base might be. Looking at high-end retail locations, your Nordstroms of the world or Neiman Marcus's. What about a grocery store or health spa or yoga spas? Thinking outside of the box and being creative in the approach tied to these locations are going to help create really a strategic campaign approach for your advertiser. And always keeping top of mind, especially with COVID, those precautions tied to the creative and what kind of messaging you would put in front of your client. Just making sure we're always being safe with driving foot traffic into brick and mortar locations. But really, with this location-based targeting and address match, we want to be able to reconnect with these qualified prospects from up to, again, 12 months ago to these physical locations. It's a great way to reconnect with people who were at concerts last year or who were at remotes, who have been at particular events that you might have sponsored alongside an advertiser. Fantastic technology to reconnect and keep your advertiser's name top of mind. And we're going to kind of shimmy over to a couple specific case studies, one that is national in scope and the other one that is on the local and retail level. But on this next slide, this is actually a fantastic current COVID case study that recently just completed in August. This is for a national service station group. They were wanting to connect with truck drivers and people who have been to service stations within the last 6 months, and people who are actively in their car traveling, and a lot of road trippers out there, and people who have visited specific parks and sites. They wanted to geofence and device ID target those particular areas and drive traffic, increase traffic, unique visitors to the conversion zones to these national service station areas. It was a fantastic and successful campaign. We had a 6-month look back window. with a really fantastic, unique response, over 17,000 that we're driving to multiple locations across the United States with over 37,000 total visits. Ben, I know you were really incremental in building out this campaign. Anything else to kind of touch upon?
You know, it was just really exciting to see the amount of actual foot traffic visits that were made here, because we have to imagine for this national service station, they're not just selling snacks, they're selling fuel for these individuals as well. And so what we gleaned from this is that we were hitting all the right people at the right time to make sure that they come to get their car filled up, they get their bellies filled up and their big gulps filled up, ready to go for the next, portion of that trip. And so this seemed to be an amazing case study for us. We're super excited to share it. And, Device ID is not just for that hyper local. Although we do a whole lot of that hyper local, it can be leveraged nationally many, many times. And so this was one that we literally just finished a campaign a couple of weeks ago. And we whipped this case study up real quick because we're super proud to see exactly what it was able to accomplish.
Hey, Ben, quick question. Quick question. I know that I believe that there was a component tied to this campaign where they really wanted to focus on people that drove specific types of vehicles. Is that something that you can speak to as well with that campaign?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. They get really jazzed up when we're talking about device ID. But they were specifically trying to target some other, they call them four-wheel drivers. So not just the truck drivers who go to these national service stations to fill up, but they wanted to target people specifically on road trips, because we know that there was a major decline in air travel and train travel during COVID. And so they were specifically trying to get in front of these people who are actively traveling, going to these different sites, going camping, road tripping with their families across the country. It actually happened over the 4th of July weekend as well. And so they wanted to get in front of all those people to say, hey, we're a service station that's not just here for fuel for the truckers, but we're here for you guys as well. And being able to glean this type of information for them, the advertiser was just extremely enthusiastic about the results, and we're continuing it right now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ben. And I think you bring up a really great point in terms of how this can be applied from a national standpoint to any of your national clients, to a regional client, multiple states, multiple counties, down to a hyper local strategy for a restaurateur. So love the diversity of the technology. The next case study is more local. So this is our lovely doggy daycare. We always love our furry family friends, and we need to take care of them too amongst COVID and of course afterwards. But this is a really fantastic case study that proved to be not only successful in the eyes of the client, but in the eyes of the community. And they have continued to renew the campaign over and over again because they are seeing that incremental business month over month, even during COVID. So during the peak of this initial campaign, the first 3 months, record 3,000 plus visits from 648 unique devices. And really the challenge was tied to, this is a competitive space. There are a lot of other doggy daycares out there, groomers, and they really wanted to be sure that they had that stakehold tied to their geographical area, their specific zip codes, but they wanted to also bring over clients from competitors, showcase a better rate, showcase better hours. How can they grow their business? And they did exactly just that in this 3 months. The next slide actually gives you a quick snapshot of their July report. So like I said, they continue to renew month over month because they do see their business in turn incrementalize and have that ROI from this particular technology in their campaign.
I think it's important to also look at responses by audience here on the left-hand side of the report. That responses by audience outlines all the different competitor locations that this doggy daycare wanted to conquest and targeting. So we can track how many, what the audience size was for this campaign from each one of those individual locations. And we can also discern how many devices were seen at their competitor's location that ultimately came into the doggy daycare physical brick and mortar location. So they can see exactly what the ROI is based on some of those different competitors that they're targeting in the marketplace.
Exactly. And how to continue to finesse that competitor and conquesting strategy. You don't always want to be beating those same areas over and over again. Where are the ones that you know you can make hay and that you can really grow your business, and who do you need to let go by the wayside and then add more locations into your mix, so you're continuing to broaden that audience and consumer reach. Excuse me. Jonathan, I'm going to kick it back over to you. We're going to discuss some more on location lift and advanced analytics tied to device ID.
Perfect. So one of the things that we are leveraging and kind of enterprising with this device ID platform is the ability to provide and offer advanced analytics for our partners to have conversations with their advertisers to discuss the impactfulness of their campaign beyond just clicks, click-through rate, how many pages per visit, what the average time on site is. I mean, we can actually provide some tangible, physical ways to show the impactfulness of any type of digital marketing campaign. And this is through an idea and a concept called location lift. And location lift is able to identify, and it's again, leveraging the device ID technology and the audience insight reports that we are able to generate to identify at a business's physical brick and mortar location, how many devices we're seeing at that physical brick and mortar location on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, on a month-to-month basis. So the idea behind location lift is telling the advertiser and being able to have these conversations saying to them, listen, before you ran a campaign with us, I don't care if it's a print campaign, a television broadcast campaign, an email campaign, a paid search campaign, or a social media campaign. I don't care what kind of campaign it is. But listen, Mr. Advertiser, prior to you running a campaign with us, we saw that there were 100 devices at your physical brick and mortar location on average per day before you ran a campaign with us. And then after you ran a campaign with us, whether it is, again, social media, broadcast, print, whatever that might be. But after you ran that campaign, we saw that there was an increase in number of devices seen at your physical brick and mortar location by 50%. And it's having those strategic conversations with an advertiser. That's something that these advertisers and SMBs understand is, I'm through this report and through these technologies that you have access to, I'm seeing that there's an increase in number of devices at my brick and mortar location since before I started this campaign. That is a way to qualify and quantify the impactfulness that a campaign has on an advertiser. So one of the things that we're doing with this location lift technology is providing foot traffic attribution for print advertising campaigns. And how this is done is through a publisher providing us a subscriber database of where they deliver a publication to, either on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And what we can do is match the mobile device IDs at these subscribers where they're delivering these publications to every single month. And what we then do is create a conversion zone around a physical brick and mortar location of a print advertiser. And then we can determine exactly how many of those subscribers' devices are coming into that physical brick and mortar location. We don't have to deliver a digital ad to those devices. This is just tracking what people are doing after we're able to match those mobile device IDs. And one of the crazy things about this is, again, I'm selling digital advertising, and I've been selling digital advertising for a long time and never sold print before. But one of the things I find to be extremely kind of eye-opening to me is that with this location lift and the foot traffic attribution for print campaigns and reports that we generated for some of our publishing partners, we saw that consistent print advertisers saw consistently more devices at their physical brick and mortar location, and they saw more of those devices belonging to their subscribers than non-print advertisers or print advertisers that had fragmented schedules. So it was really eye-opening to us. And by putting that data and that information in the arms and the hands of our publishers, they were able to retain more print clients. They were able to not just retain those print clients, but they were able to cross-sell them into different platforms, different digital solutions, and different advertising solutions it is that they had, because they were able to build that trust, that equity with that advertiser based on the data and the information it is that they were able to provide. And they were also able to go back to campaigns and clients that churned because they said that, print didn't work or broadcast, whatever didn't work. We're able to show a decline and devices at that physical brick and mortar location of that advertiser after they ended a campaign. So it allows that strategic ability for our partners, sales reps, to reapproach those advertisers that have churned and didn't renew for whatever reason, and show them some really quality data tied to how they seen a dip in terms of number of devices seen at their location after they stopped running their campaign. So it gives the ability to renew and potentially get that customer back on that client roster again.
That's just crazy to me.
It is. It's a crazy time to be alive, no question about it. So with all that being said, I think that we have kind of articulated some of the benefits around device ID. We showed how it's being applied in certain instances by our partners to produce some really amazing results. We showed some different applications for the device ID platform, so it's making it easier for our partners to go out there and generate digital revenue without necessarily having to focus on selling digital. It's just focusing on selling your audience. I think the most important thing now is, in today's day and age, it's difficult to get in front of an advertiser because of the current state of the economy. So I wanted to highlight a partner of ours who has taken some of the resources and the capabilities that we've been able to provide and have enterprised them in a way to get them in front of their advertisers so that they can sell these advertisers into some of these different concepts. And they can also use this as a way to generate pipeline. And this part, I think it's important to kind of talk about this part. They're down in Southwest Florida, and they rely heavily on business from travel tourism during their peak times in their market, which is between Thanksgiving on through to Easter. So when COVID happened and the pandemic happened, it couldn't have happened at a worse time for them, considering it was in the middle of their peak business. So as you'd imagine, they were affected tremendously by paused campaigns. So we worked with them on how to engineer a solution to get back in front of those advertisers and talk to them about some of these different solutions and how they should pivot during this time to maintain their cash register, to ring, and to weather the storm so that they can keep their business alive and open and employ everybody. So the first thing that they did is they established educational webinars for business owners. And they worked in accordance with AdCellerant to put together content as to what kind of messaging needs to be potentially used, what kinds of platforms and media mix potentially needs to be used, what kinds of businesses should they be potentially targeting. Now, all this information was discussed over a series of webinars where they invited their business owners within their market to educate themselves on some of the different solutions that are being leveraged out there in the marketplace today. So here's the results. And again, this is a partner that is a pretty large partner from a digital revenue standpoint. They're actually doing more revenue now in the summer in Southwest Florida in the off season than they were doing in peak season when everything was perfectly normal before COVID. And so they leverage those, not just the webinars, but the content that we created. AdCellerant created over 100 different pieces of content across 18 different verticals. And these verticals were for healthcare, automotive, retail, real estate, you name it. There was every single vertical you can imagine. We created content as to what kind of recommendations we would make from a media mix standpoint, what kind of recommendations we would make for that specific advertiser in that vertical from a messaging standpoint, and then also how that advertiser within that vertical could potentially emerge from COVID even stronger. How can they pandemic proof their business? So they leverage that content. They leverage the account management resources that we had to help host on their behalf some of these different webinars. And as a result of all this stuff, we saw an increase in terms of total amount of revenue. We saw an increase in terms of pipeline. I believe that there was over 150 different people that registered for some of these different webinars that they hosted. And they were able to close, I believe, upwards of almost 10 different deals in new advertisers, kind of leveraging some of the different content and recommendations that we were helping them and assisting them with. And here's a couple of quotes from this publisher partner about how they were able to kind of lean on us during this time to not just kind of get answers for them on how it is this publisher should be running their business, but more importantly, how can they leverage us to produce recommendations to their advertisers so their advertisers can get the cash register to ring so that they can get people to come into the through the door again. So again, we're excited about this, how we've been able to kind of help this partner grow amidst the pandemic.
I think it's really great to also note, we actually just got kind of a congratulations to them, specifically this partner in question that we're talking about right now, just closed a $300,000 annual deal for themselves with the support of what AdCellerant's done. We come in as white labeled resources, whether to host those educational webinars, to speak with clients, to build your strategies, to help with the entire sales process from the pre-sale, the strategy building, the sale and closing it, execution reporting. We jumped in to help with all those things. And we're really proud to see that nice large deal come in as well. And it's a really nice one for them, especially considering the circumstances with COVID. These guys are well on their way to having larger digital months, month after month for the next several months. So I definitely wanted to point that one out and just say how excited we are about that. I definitely think that, taking some of that business intelligence that AdCellerant is able to provide, we understand that we have different partners. We have agencies, we have, broadcast partners, publisher partners, channel sales organizations that work with us. We're not keeping everybody separated completely in terms of the business intelligence that works best for every type of community right now. We understand that having this tribal knowledge and disseminating it across every single partner is really important because some of them are hurting. Some of them are doing really well. And so we want to take some of those best practices and ideas and data, actual data that we're pulling, and help spread that across everybody else so that everybody has that opportunity. And so this is actually one of my favorite things to talk about. Every single week we get an email, an internal email from our team, and we also share it externally with every single one of our partners about where the most number of insertion orders are coming from. So we know what industries are really thriving right now. What's been great to see is that a lot of them are coming, actually the number 3 one right now is our tourism and entertainments. So the tourism industry is not dead right now. It's doing very well. Education is absolutely crushing it. And obviously healthcare is doing great. So if you have contacts in any of those verticals, you should be on top of them. A lot of these are not really hurting right now. A lot of people are just pausing their purchases. They're not canceling them completely. So they're still planning on spending this money. And so it's important for those advertisers to understand we need to stay in front of them now. So this type of tribal knowledge that we're here to share with y'all is a very important piece to understand. This is one tiny bit of data that we can actually share along with case studies, along with suggestions, along with talk tracks about how to get that advertiser that you're speaking to across the finish line. So these are a lot of the ones that are working great right now, whether they're essential businesses or not. Every single industry has the opportunity, and we have the data behind it for all of them as well.
I agree. And I think that we are just kind of scratching the surface with this device ID platform. And I want our partners and prospective partners to challenge AdCellerant as to how we can enterprise this platform to do something that maybe we have never even thought of. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity to figure out how else we can leverage this to do some really cool, creepy things and to ultimately drive the bottom line as a result of all that stuff. So with that being said, I think that wraps up everything that we had to present here today. I do know that we have a couple of questions that I would like to get to here as well. And I'm going to take this from the top right here. I see there's a question regarding device ID and is it better suited for video messaging or for display banners? What do you guys, how do you guys feel about that?
I would say that it is absolutely suited for video as well. It's really up to the advertiser and the type of budget that they have available to them. But if they have video assets and they have, the audience large enough to be able to deliver video ads to them, we can couple a pre-roll platform with the device ID targeting to help, increase the brand awareness, to help increase the relevancy to those to those individuals who are getting those ads. What's nice about video is everybody's addicted to video. I am probably the #1 offender for this one, and video is a great way to get a very targeted ad to those people. So I definitely believe device ID is a great suit for video, but it really is up to that advertiser and their available budget to be able to include video or banners.
It's a good point. I think it's really kind of based on budget. No question, the device ID platform is great for both display as well as video. But to Ben's point, with video being an emerging, trending tactic right now, and the amount of video consumption that's taken place because of not, I mean, obviously the trends were kind of pointing to video increasing in 2020, but I think that that's been exasperated and amplified because of COVID in the current state of the economy. So if an advertiser does have the budget and the creative to accommodate some type of device ID video campaign, I would absolutely recommend leveraging that video capability and targeting with device ID if possible. Let's see, some other questions. I know there's a lot of questions about the presentation. We're going to send a copy of the presentation, a recording of the presentation. And also I want to include links to the sample audience insight reports that we can generate from a pre-sales perspective to help our partner sales teams go out there and help with that pre-sales process, as well as the foot traffic attribution report. We're going to provide a link to that as well. So just want to make sure I kind of addressed that. So there's another question about creative examples that we can share. Best practices for call to action, for success. You know what? As regards to the messaging and creative examples, I think it just depends on the goal of the campaign. Honestly, if it's a branding campaign, best practices are to not have a website URL or a call to action. Honestly, a branding campaign, you just want to get your name, your logo, maybe a website out there at most. But just getting in front of an eyeball and having that impression delivered to an eyeball is considered a conversion if it is a branding campaign goal and objective that that advertiser is dealing with. However, if it is going to be something more direct response, they're trying to get people to click, try to get people to buy something, that needs to be in that call to action within that creative. So again, I think the creative examples, we have a variety of different creative examples that we can share based on what that goal of the campaign is. It will ultimately determine what we want that call to action to look like. Let's see, next question. Seasonal businesses, spring, early fall. Are we able to see a year-over-year lift in traffic after using a device ID campaign both years? This is specific to location lift reporting, no question about it. Absolutely. The great thing about this, and this is something that we're going to be rolling out into our new dashboard, reporting dashboard, is advanced analytics tied to location lift. So if you are running a paid search campaign, or if you're running a Facebook campaign, or if you're running an OTT connected TV campaign, if you log into our reporting dashboard, you'll be able to see location lift audience insight report for every single day that campaign ran. So as long as we're tracking that data, and that is the objective that we want to track year over year, as long as we start tracking right now, absolutely, we should be able to, or if we look back, we can't look back 2 years, right? So what we can do is we can look back a year and start tracking everything moving forward, just to see if we are seeing increases in terms of number of devices this September versus last September. And obviously moving on, if we're doing it for next year, we can see how it compares to the following September next year, if we want to as well, kind of compare location lift in number of devices seen in that location over that time period if we want to as well. So no question, I think that this is how we're able to enterprise a solution to show them that advertisers that level of data. Let's see, is it possible that, yeah, there's content for my sales team, no question about it. We're going to get this out to everybody and disseminate this across everybody that was that either attended or registered for this. Let's see some other ones. Do you have a needs analysis guide that can be shared with reps? Absolutely, we definitely do. So one of the cool things that AdCellerant has is a centralized web-based platform called UI.marketing. That is a total digital agency software solution. It has a proposal tool, it has a scheduling tool, CRM, order management system, it has a reporting dashboard, and it also has something that we call knowledge base, which is our learning management system that contains a variety of different video modules based on some of the tactics that we have to offer, like device ID. There's a video module training on device ID. There's video module trainings on some of the different tools and resources that we provide our partners. But there's also a resource library that our partners have access to that contains valuable documents tied to exactly what you're looking for, needs analysis, and typical sample questions that we would like to see answered during that pre-sales process. But there's also resources there for like creative specifications, business rules, case studies, testimonials, all that can be white labeled on behalf of our partners. All of that's available within our learning management system called Knowledge Base. Let's see, do we have a short sales deck that can be shown to prospects and clients that can educate them on the benefits of a device ID? Absolutely, 100%. We do have that. Maybe that's something that we can provide as a follow-up as well, is not just the presentation that we had and a link to the audience insight report and the foot traffic attribution report, but maybe we can provide you guys a one sheet white paper on what is device ID and how it compares to other technologies out there in the marketplace. So that's why make sure that we include that in the in our follow-up as well. I think I got to pretty much every single one of the questions, and if I didn't answer your question, again, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to continue the conversation and talk a little bit more about how this can be applied and how obviously this potentially compares to other technologies out there in the marketplace, whether you're using Simplify or other location-based targeting capabilities. I know there's other ones like Gimbal out there. We'd like to continue the conversation and make this an open forum. So please feel free as a follow-up to schedule some time with us. We'd be happy to go in greater detail about everything it is that we talked to today and maybe other things that we didn't talk about as well. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody on the behalf of Ben, on the behalf of Elizabeth, and on behalf of everybody at AdCellerant. Thank you very much for your time here today. And I hope you guys have a great, safe holiday weekend.